Hi, Shane Stevenson, Curator and Director of Museum Collections here at the Buffalo Naval Park. And today I think we have a really cool video that you'll find enjoyable and informative. So one of our three tourable ships here at the Buffalo Naval Park is USS Little Rock. Now USS Little Rock has had two lives during her service from 1945 to 1949. And in that time, she was a Cleveland-class light cruiser, CL-92. She was then decommissioned, and she was brought back into commission in 1960, and she served from 1960 to 1976 as a Galveston-class guided missile cruiser, CLG-4. Most of our collections and our manuscript collections and our photographic collection here at the Buffalo Naval Park, the bulk of it is about CLG-4 and her second life from 1960 to 1976. But I have found this little gem in the collection regarding her service in the 1940s, from 1945 to 1949. And this was a newsletter from the Cramp Shipbuilding Company, which is the shipbuilding company that constructed a few of the Cleveland-class light cruisers. The USS Miami, the USS Astoria, the USS Galveston, among a few others. So this from August of 1945 highlights the USS Little Rock, which in that month was going to be commissioned into the U.S. Navy. So within this magazine, it shows photographs of various compartments on USS Little Rock even before she was commissioned. So I am going to be revisiting these spaces and doing a kind of a comparison between what you see in the photograph and what you will see today in real life. So I hope you find this video enjoyable. Now let's get going. We're going to climb some ladders, go down some some hatches and scuttles probably, but I'll see you there. Hi everyone. Well, here we are on our first stop. All right, so in the Cramp Ways, it shows that it's the cruise berthing. This is the second deck, frame 101 to 113. And if you look today, it's actually the cruise mess. So not only did they convert the outside of the vessel, everything from the main deck up, called the superstructure, right, which they added the Talos missile system, and all of the instruments and mechanisms to control the Talos missile system. But they also converted the interior of the vessel to house newer equipment, to house changes in crew, size, and ratings and specialties. All right, so what a frame is you should think of it like the rib of a ship. All right, it comes from the hull and it divides compartments from the bow to the stern. You could also, vernacularly, call them walls, but they divide a ship and they're usually called frames, also bulkheads. So if you take a look at that picture from the Cramp Ways from August of 1945, it shows a hatch behind us and some of the berthing spaces. All right, but this was converted in 1960 to what you see today, which is the cruise mess. Now, if you take a look behind me and you look at the door, you can look at the recess in the bulkhead here. That closely resembles, and probably one of the most closely resembled images from the 1945 photos that I'm showing you. So this is the captain's stateroom, her in-port cabin when the ship was in port, and I really believe that this is the same exact space from the 1945 photograph. All right, currently it is our Superintendent of Ships. It's his office, our Senior Chief, John Branning. And it wouldn't surprise me that during the 1960 conversion of USS Little Rock that they would keep the same layout, for at least for her import cabin. All right, so again, if you take a look at that 1945 photo and you look here, you see a pretty good resemblance with the recess in the wall and the door butting right up against the corner of the bulkhead. So now we're going to be heading to another area of the ship that's usually off tour for visitors. But when we do have behind the scenes tour, we do give people a little peek down here in one of our engine compartments. All right, so if you watched our video comparing the USS the Sullivans to the USS New Jersey, the Iowa class battleship, you'll see that I talk about some of the similar things down below. All right, so let's head down there and see what we've got. There's Old Man Pettibone, god of the machinist mates and boiler mates. So here's one of our very patriotic throttle boards. USS Little Rock was rated for about 100,000 shaft horsepower, coming from 2 engine rooms and 2 fire rooms. So the fire rooms had about 634 pounds per square inch of steam pressure that they would build up in the boilers, which would be sent to the engine rooms. And with the props and the shafts, you'd have the 2 outboard shafts being controlled by one of the engine rooms and the 2 inboard props being controlled by the other engine room. So let's take a look around, and if you compare it to that pristine picture of August of 1945, maybe you'll see some similarities. So here we have one of the pumps, all right, leading to the turbines. And here you have a generator. And one of the low pressure turbines. So again, low pressure and high pressure, if you've watched our video with the Iowa class battleship USS New Jersey, you'll see that low pressure was used for cruising. All right, high pressure gave the ship that extra oomph when it needed it, if she was in harm's way or harm's danger. All right, but it really used a lot of steam and a lot of water, so they wouldn't use it very often. All right, so if you think about a ship just cruising along, it's using its low pressure turbine. And you'll see all of the gauges that are necessary to control these turbines. All right, there's one of the shafts. And this is the reduction gear, which continued aft for one of the propellers. There is one of the high pressure turbines. All right, well, it's a little dark down here, and let's head to our next stop. Well, here we are on the 3rd deck, and this is pretty cool because this is a part of the ship that you don't normally get to see, and it's no surprise why. So this video will highlight how difficult it also is to take care of a 610-foot cruiser from the U.S. Navy. All right, but this image And what you see behind me is the ship's barber shop for the enlisted crew. If you take a look at the picture, it's in the same exact spot, third deck. So it's frame 57 to 61, and that's where we are right now, but there's not much left of it. So when we do host behind the scenes tours, which we do, this is one of the areas that you may be able to come to. So this was Crew's Barbershop, still is today, just in pretty rough shape. All right, let's see what else we have. All right, our next stop is ship service. This was on the third deck, frame 79 to 81. And that's exactly where we are right now, frame 79, and we're probably standing around frame 80. So the book from the newsletter from the Cramp Shipbuilding Company says this was an area that's a little taste of home and a little taste of Main Street. All right, so if you look at the photo, they even had a soda bar. And this was kind of a place to hang out, probably like a soda bar where they came from. All right, over my left shoulder is the 1960 to 1976 ship service. You could even see they tried to make it a little more homey with the brick. All right, but again, today it's used as storage. So if you can imagine hundreds of guys coming here, getting a soda, kind of hanging out in, like a diner sort of atmosphere, that's what we had back then. And from 60 to 76, it was a little different. All right, let's check out to see what's next. All right, next up on this tour of the USS Little Rock will be the dental office. So you'll see the 1945 picture. We are in sick bay as her current configuration is, and I'm going to take you to the area you see in the photograph, which doesn't really look like it today. So as I've mentioned, technology changed, and the area that we are heading in right now turned out to be the X-ray darkroom. So later in the ship's service, they had a darkroom to develop X-rays. This is the room that used to be the dental office in her 1945 to 1949 configuration. It is frame third deck, frame 43 to 45, and this is the room that we are in. Can't really see too much, but it was the dark room, which makes sense. The walls are black. All right, and there's the stamp that says frame 43 to 45. Now the current dental office and the two dental chairs is just forward of here towards the bow. And when they did the conversion, they were able to increase the crew up to about 1,000, 1,100. And so they needed to expand the medical facilities because in her first configuration as a Cleveland class cruiser, they had anywhere from 650 to about 700 men on board at full capacity. For USS Little Rock as a guided missile cruiser, they were able to hold about 1,100 to 1,200, depending on the crews that they were engaged in and some of the duties that she was doing. All right, so let's head off to our next spot. Not too far away from the dental office, as you'd imagine, is the operating room. So this was third deck, frame 39 to 42. And they kept the operating room at least in the same location, if not the same overall layout and overall design. So you'll see we've got an unfortunate sailor on the operating table. Let's call him bosun mate first class Bumpy. All right, and then you'll see the rest of the operating room. So you can certainly compare that to the photograph from the 1945 Little Rock. Certainly it seemed a little more cramped with less overall equipment, but I'm sure it wasn't fitted out completely. But so they did keep the operating room in the same location on the third deck. Obviously they just changed it and upgraded with newer technology as 1960 conversion approached. Well, let's see what else we've got. Now, if you can believe it, looking at the original USS Little Rock configuration versus the 1960 configuration, it's almost like the cruise mess and the cruise berthing have flipped. All right, so if you take a look at the picture of the cruise mess, that's frame 69, and if you can believe it, 69 to all the way to frame 113, which is a lot of footage for the second deck. What it turned into the second division with about 80 crew here in this berthing. This was the start to the cruise mess. So we've looked at the cruise mess today, which was berthing, and here we are in second division berthing, which in 1945 was the cruise mess. Now you'd think that if you look at that first picture of the cruise berthing, we've got the hatch, we've got the bunks. At first glance, I thought that was this compartment. But reading the frames going bow to stern, it just didn't work out right. So again, this is where cruise mess started, and in her 1960 configuration, it was for second division berthing, bosun's mates and such, and it slept about 80 crew. Well, here we are on the starboard side looking down Broadway, right, which was one of the longest full passageways on USS Little Rock. And around here, from frame 69 to 73 was the ship's supply office. It's interesting, we have an exhibit, we have a Vietnam exhibit that we have that is tourable, and that's off of this passageway. But it's interesting because the current disbursement office is in the same area. All right, so this was where they dispersed the paychecks for the crew and other office-related correspondence. Right, so again, we're in the right area. It's a little more compartmentalized than the photograph that you see from 1945. But it's in the same area. And originally, it was across from the mess deck for the enlisted crew, which makes sense, so that they could eat and then they can just get their paychecks and everything would be right there for them. In 1945, we are standing right above the bakery. But this is one of the blacksmith's compartments. So you can imagine the thousands of tools on board, the 1,000 pieces of equipment that were on board. And obviously they had blacksmith stationed throughout the vessel to help with small and minor repairs. So it's off the tour route today, but if you take a look, it certainly has that feel of a tool room or a repair shop. So my thinking is it's the same framing. So they kept this space, maybe not as a blacksmith shop in 1960 to 1976, but as a tool and maintenance compartment. All right, we're now standing in the CPO Mess and Lounge area, which currently is our cruiser compartment, honoring various cruisers throughout the U.S. naval history. All right, as being the last guided missile cruiser or Cleveland class in the world, we feel that it's our duty to honor cruisers and their history. All right, so if you take a look at the photo from 1945, you will see that it is the CPO's Mess and Lounge. And even in her 1960 to 1976 service, this space was also the crew's Mess and Lounge. So they didn't want to mess around with the CPOs here and change everything. All right, so this was a nice, I try to compare the bulkheads and the entranceways, and even though it's the same frames, all right, as the original CPO Mess, it certainly does look a little different and it's configured a little different. But at least we know that we're in the right area in terms of the second deck and the right framing. All right, so CPOs ate separately from the enlisted crew, even though they were enlisted as well. And if you get up to the E9 level, a Master Chief, you can then continue to move up, and you do move up into the officer's rank as a warrant officer. All right, carrying on. Well, here we are in the 1960 conversion, second deck, frame 123 to about 128. And this is, in her current 60 to 76 configuration, is the CPO Berthing Compartment. If you take a look at the photograph, it is the same space where the washroom was from 1945 to 1949. So is the CPO washroom. Not surprising that then they kept it as berthing in the 60 to 76 conversion. All right, so what is a CPO? All right, a Chief Petty Officer is an enlisted recruit that moves up from the E1, E2, E3 level into the E4 level. So you start off as a recruit. E2 is a seaman apprentice, and E3 is a seaman. And then you get to E4, you get to Chief Petty Officers, then you have first class, second class, third class, and you end up at an E9, which is a Master Chief. All right, so this is where they bunked in 1960 to 1976. Okay, so the last stop on our tour is one of the coolest. We are very forward right now in the third deck, frame 2017 to 20, around there, so very close to the bow of the vessel. And this is for the warrant officers' staterooms. I know it's pretty dark in here. We don't actually have much electricity here at all. All right, but this was in 1976, the staterooms for warrant officers. There's even a desk. So this is obviously off the tour route. All right. So what warrant officers was enlisted crew that rose through the ranks up to and above a master CPO. All right, so above a Master Chief, which is E9. All right, and so you moved from enlisted crew to a commissioned officer, but you were on the lower ranks of being a commissioned officer. right? So you rose through the enlisted ranks with a specialty, and then you became an expert, and you were able to become a commissioned officer, moving from an enlisted crew, which is usually not possible. So that was really the pinnacle and the top of the pyramid of where you can go as an enlisted crew, and you would become a chief warrant officer, which was a commissioned officer in the Navy. And so this was their staterooms in 1945, as you see in the photograph, but it was also kept from her 1960 to 1976 conversion. There's some bedding. And look what happens to the paint when it's unkept and it has a lot of cold and heat. Didn't mean to turn this into a Halloween video, but we hope you enjoyed this video. Found it thrilling to present it to you, and please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube page, check out our Facebook page, and please consider a donation to the Buffalo Naval Park. If you have any comments, please leave those in the comment section, and thank you so very much.